how many of us, have been able to look at people and say, oh, you're acting just like your mother, you're acting just like your father, you're acting like this, you're acting like that. And we don't realize it. But it's very obvious to the person who's watching us. We're in a state of being unconscious or subconscious. We're acting, most of us, sadly, as sort of tapes that are playing that someone else recorded for us. Our parents, our teachers, society, they fed all of this information into this blank tape. Now that tape is playing. And that's how we're acting. All of what we took in, particularly when we were children, has formed what we call our subconscious. And it's formed much of how we act, how we react. And that's why on a spiritual path, if we want, for example, to change anything, one of the most fundamental principles is being present, being aware, being mindful. And that's why all of the spiritual practices emphasize mindfulness, awareness, being in the present, because if you're not aware of what you're doing, you don't have any hope of changing it. And all of the, the mindfulness-based meditation practices, for example, have us doing the most mundane things, eating a raisin, drinking a glass of water, walking, in this very meditative, mindful way. Why? Well, because it's a lot easier to be mindful of eating a raisin than it is to be mindful of getting angry. The raisin is, the equivalent of kindergarten. But if I can develop a practice of being mindful eating a raisin or being mindful drinking a glass of water, then maybe someday I can also be mindful when I'm reacting out of anger. So that practice of being in the present moment enables us, it's the only thing that enables us not to be acting out of our subconscious. It's the only thing that enables us to be acting rather than simply playing a tape recorder. And I mention that because that's why so few of us are able to see how we are, and why others tend to be able to see it much more clearly. So being able, for example, to see that someone else has an apple tree in their future, because you're able to see that they are planting an apple seed. They may not be aware of it. In their family, everybody planted apple seeds all the time. They've been planting apple seeds since they could walk. They can do it in their sleep. So mindlessly, unconsciously, they're planting apple seed after apple seed after apple seed. They're not even aware of it. But if you're in a state of mindfulness and presence, you're able to witness what they're doing, which is why in your dream, or in your meditation, or even just in a regular state of awareness, you can say, by the way, I noticed you've planted that apple seed. I thought you were allergic to apples. Are you really sure you want to be doing that? Wonderful. Intuition, instinct. We started to touch on this last night, and it's an important subject. I'll expand on it. We tend to think of intuition as something very, very special, very, very spiritual, as you said, a momentary enlightenment. And yet, it's actually something that we're born with. I gave the example last night of the caterpillar. A caterpillar's crawling on the ground, being a caterpillar. One day, some voice happens within it that says, climb a tree. Then the voice says, go out on a branch. I mean, I don't know how the voice comes, but something shifts in it one day that where it used to be happy crawling on the ground, now it's climbed a tree, it's gone out on a branch, Now the inner instinct says, weave a cocoon. Then the instinct says, now sit tight in this cocoon for a while. Then one day it says, now break out of this cocoon. Jump. This thing that's never jumped. Jump. You can fly. I give the example because what we call momentary enlightenment is really just intelligence, wisdom, inner knowing. And every creature, every being on earth has it. No seed tries to sprout from underground in the middle of winter. Why do seeds sprout in the spring? Well, because if they sprouted in the winter from underground, the minute that very, very soft sapling hit the hard frosted ground, it would never be able to break through the dirt and actually get the sunlight. It would die. So somehow that seed has the intelligence not to sprout until the ground is soft, until it actually can make it through. Every piece of nature, plants, trees, insects, animals, there's an inner wisdom, an inner intelligence, an inner knowing. And it's impossible, inconceivable, that the divine creator would have given a wisdom to a seed and to a caterpillar and not to us. So we also know. Pujya Swamiji calls it our internal GPS. The problem is the mind and all the other voices that it create a situation where we can't hear it. So in those very, very brief moments, and the reason it feels like enlightenment is what's happened in those moments is the other voices became quiet. And so we could hear that voice. That inner voice, that inner knowing, that intelligence, that wisdom, that GPS. And because the other voices were momentarily quiet, we had a taste, a touch of our true nature, which felt very much like we imagine enlightenment must feel like. But really all that happened was all of those voices became quiet enough that we could hear. And that's where all of our spiritual practices, why people who meditate a lot have a lot of intuition. It's not that intuition is somehow a bonus that you get from meditating, and the more you meditate, the more intuition you get. It's just that the more you meditate, the quieter the voices are, which means the more you can hear the inner voice. This is similar to what he was asking about, is that if you do, in our dreams, we tend to have one of two things happen, or one of three things. One, either we're working out what happened during the day. So we've taken in so much, and our minds are filtering it. I mean, just from a scientific standpoint, we know that what's happening in our minds is actually very, very, very active in sleep. You actually burn more calories sleeping than you do watching TV. Literally. Your brain is so much more active in sleep. Obviously, in both cases, your body is still. But in sleep, your brain is actually so much more active that you're burning more calories than when you're comatose in front of a TV. Where the first thing that happens is we process what happened in the day. Make sense of it, filter out that which isn't important, hold on to that which is. The second thing that happens is we fulfill our desires. That which we keep thinking about, keep wanting. you'll notice miraculously we tend to get it in our dreams, which is why waking up is so painful. Everything was great in my dream. I had the job I wanted, the house I wanted, the spouse I wanted, the body I wanted, everything that I wanted. I had it in my dream. So when our desires are very, very active, we actually get them fulfilled in our dreams. It's very, very kind, actually. The universe has been very kind to us, that we should not suffer both waking and sleeping. So it gives it to us in the dream state. But the other thing comes in when we're not so full of desires, when there's not so much at the end of the day that we'd been wanting that we didn't get, that now we have to waste our sleeping time fulfilling it. When that happens, then a state of quietness tends to come in our sleep. And when that comes, is when these sorts of dreams come. That's when the dreams come that seem to be prophecies, but that aren't actually prophecies. They're just getting us in touch with our intuition. They're getting us in touch with our awareness. They're allowing us to see. We've given our minds a break from having to constantly create dramas that fulfill our desires. And they're able to actually just show us what is. So yes, that's exactly what happens in situations like that, is the voices, whether in an auditory sense or in a visual sense in the dream, have quieted down. And that which is the wisdom, the intelligence, the reality, the intuition, whatever we call it, is now manifest there for us.